Hello, this is Nitin Dahad with EE Times, and I'm here with Pat Brans, also with EE Times, and we are doing our final day wrap from the ITF World 2026 conference, which is run by Imec. Pat, hello, how are you?
How are you doing, Nitin?
I'm good. Well, it's been quite a fun 2 days, but maybe let's just talk a little bit about some of the people we spoke to and interviewed,
Sure.
and some of the stories that will be coming up in EE Times.
Right. Okay, so actually I had 4 really good interviews today. One was on metrology of tall, high aspect ratio semiconductor features. As you have 3D heterogeneous integration, you need to measure things differently. You cannot easily view the sidewall with current metrology, or the z-axis characterization. I talked to Philippe Leray at Imec on that. So I'll be coming up with an article on that. I also talked about 3D architectures and what Imec calls CMOS 2.0. That's one of the things that Patrick talked about, the CEO talked about.
I think CMOS 2.0 is a big thing here.
Exactly. So I talked to Zsolt Tolkai. Not sure if I pronounced his name correctly. We talked about CMOS 2.0, which is a bottom-up re-architecture for ultra-dense vertical interconnects between logic and memory, which obviously increases bandwidth and reduces energy consumption for applications like AI, of course. AI.
Yeah.
Then another one I had was about chiplet integration. So I talked to Peter van der Stegen, and they used to have a program of chiplets for automotive, but then they called it chiplets for autonomous. So it's called the Autonomous Edge Chiplet Program.
Yes. Bart was doing that. I interviewed him at ARM last year when they did that conference there, with the Imec and ARM automotive thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And one of the things they're doing is they're sort of leading an effort to for chiplet standards for chiplet integration. So it's sort of like, you remember the OSI layers that you used to have for networks?
Yeah.
Well, it's sort of like that. You have the physical link layer, then you have the physical layer, the link layer, and protocol layers, but nothing at the application layer, because you want to allow the chiplets to do what they want, but they have to interconnect correctly. And finally, the fourth one I had was about optical interconnects, and I talked to 2 people there, Peter Osier and Iman Jadli. And they talked about optical interconnects between across systems, circuits, and devices. Obviously, once again, driven by the need for faster exchange of data, because AI, everything's about AI.
Yeah.
With AI, you have this huge exchange of data. And so those were quite good interviews, yeah.
I mean, on the optical, and I think we said this yesterday as well, I felt like Patrick's keynote at the beginning of the conference, was the CEO, was actually highlighting 2 things, and one was the photonics and the optical to address, because it's all about scaling AI. I mean, one of the things I think I'm hearing around the conference is, everything's all about AI, but how do you scale it? And I think that was kind of what are the technologies going down, from the chip, the connect, the memory, and all of that, and you're putting the systems. And I think you talked about co-optimization.
Right.
But it's like, just how do you scale with that co-optimization? So that's been the big conference, and I think photonics was a big part of that. I think when Patrick was talking about it.
Right. So exchanging data with photonics and not having to convert to electric in between steps. Ultimately. And how about you? Do you have some interviews?
I mean,
I've
said. I mean, everything is fascinating here.
Yeah.
And I think
totally.
the 2 that I had specifically were focused on startups, the venturing arm. The venturing arm, I think, is down there somewhere. So I've done a video interview, so I think with Olivier Rousseau, and it's just I love to talk about startups, and I think it's a common theme whether anywhere you are in Europe, when you talk to somebody and say, so what's the difference between startups here and startups in the US? Now, I didn't ask Olivier that question, but I was just talking about what are the things that Imec is doing in its venturing arm with startups, and how is it helping. And it gave an example of Celestial AI, and you can watch the video for that. But basically, although they're Bay Area based, they'd worked together with Celestial to actually sort of help them develop some of the early technology, or Celestial had come to them. So I think that was quite interesting. Just also in terms of how it's not just about, one of the things he said was like, a lot of countries have, I met some economic development agencies here, and a lot of countries and the governments, and because of their geopolitics, are all talking about putting a flag to their technology. And Olivia said something quite interesting, which is basically, you don't need to hide behind a flag. It's on the merits of the technology. I mean, he didn't use those words, but that's paraphrasing. And I think that's one of the things he's trying to encourage by connecting all the dots between the accelerators that they partner with, the funds, and then it's not just about Europe, it's about connecting wherever they are. So I think that's quite important. The second interview, actually, if you remember, Patrick talked about, is it Neural Impulse 3?
Yeah, yeah.
I probably got that wrong.
Yeah.
But so I interviewed the chief scientist here, Barun Dutta, and he's like a professor. Although he comes from the semiconductor industry, he worked on lithography, but it's kind of that convergence of neuroscience and semiconductors, and just how they've integrated all the MEMS to get that very tiny, from tiny sensor that goes into the brain, and what results they've got in terms of the number of sensors they can get onto it because of miniaturization. It's the CMOS technology integrated with MEMS sensors, and just the number of sensors you can. I think it talks like tens and thousands or hundreds of thousands of sensors. Ultimately, the brain, you've got so many neurons, you've got to try and record those. And that miniaturization and the MEMS actually just allow you to do that without rejection from the brain. Well, I mean, there is rejection, but not as much as like previous probes, which are millimeters or whatever. Now they're in the microns range. So that was quite fascinating.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think the venture, Imec Ventures, I think it's called. I think one of the recent things they've done is expanded to the United States.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Olivia talked about that, and the team they're putting in there. And I think that was the whole point about not being behind a flag, but just like putting people in the right places, and connect the dots.
Right.
And I think the fact that he used celestial AI is an example of a success. And they're not even European.
No.
That's the whole point.
Right, exactly. That is the point. And you mentioned yesterday in a private conversation with me that you think that the attendance has jumped very high, I believe. Did you remember the figures for that?
Oh, you mean in terms of the
attendance? Who's coming? The number of people coming.
I haven't confirmed it officially, but it felt like it was around 2,600.
Yeah.
I think generally in the past it's been around 2,000.
Yeah.
So there's really a lot of interest. But I would say one conversation I think we both had was it's great talking about scaling AI, but one conversation was around like, why aren't, if it's a Europe-based conference and etc., why aren't the IDMs here? Why aren't the automotive companies
Exactly.
here?
Exactly.
And like, it was a US company, Rivian, which was here doing a keynote.
Right.
And I think that was quite telling in that like we don't have those. I mean, what's your thought on that?
Well, just what you said. I mean, it was that was notably absent. Let's call it.
Yeah. So maybe that's something. Is it the conversation we had was basically, is it that the IDMs and the automotive in Europe are not taking AI seriously? Or is it something else?
Right. Worth investigating.
Yeah, worth investigating. Maybe for future articles. I'm sure you will do stuff.
Maybe. Yes, I will.
What's overall feeling then? What's the whole thing?
I've always loved this conference every year. I love it. And I loved it this time as well. I think it's a lot of forward-thinking people, a lot of brilliant researchers, both inside IMEC and outside of IMEC. They're partners. Just brilliant stuff.
I can't say it enough. It is something where, if you're a geek, just like looking at going around all these booths, pavilions, and finding out. I mean, there's even one there for journalism.
Yeah, I saw that. AI for journalism. I saw that.
And I thought, okay, no,
well,
maybe not.
Actually, I did take a look at that, and it was mostly about doing better research, looking up information, and it would give you a source, a scholarly information.
Got it. I mean, I did have somebody who told me yesterday they'd done a search via AI and didn't get the right information on something, and they got it all wrong.
Okay.
But you do need good tools.
Right.
And I think the technology, the tools, and it's all building to sort of how do you scale AI, and that's the theme of this conference.
Right. Okay,
Anything else, Pat?
I don't know. I'm not sure. But what I would have to say is people should read our articles to find out what else.
Excellent. Yeah, that's a good way to end. That's all from ITF World 2026 in Antwerp, and we look forward to seeing you from the next one.
Bye.
Bye.